And then it goes, I got to skip down. There we go. Yeshua ben Nun Malay Ruach Chokhmah. And Joshua, who's the new kid on the block, right, is full of the spirit of wisdom. Ki samach Moshe et yadav. Very interesting. How did Joshua become the next leader? We're in a political election. We're all getting ready to vote, right? How did Joshua get it? Was it an election? No. Did he go to school? No. Moses samached him. He put his hands upon him and transferred wisdom from himself to Joshua. That is the ancient tradition. And it's very interesting. We're not talking about education here. We as a Jewish people talk about education a lot, but it's not in the Torah. It's this passing. Now think about it. How did Adam and Eve get knowledge? They ate a piece of fruit. Wisdom was not thought of as something acquired through experience or age. It is transferred. Rabbi Baum and I were ordained at the Hebrew Union College, and if you come into my office, you'll see my smicha. Comes from the same word as samach, the transferring of hands. And if you were at my ordination or Rabbi Baum's, you saw us stand before the ark, and the president of the college, Rabbi Gottschalk for me, Rabbi Ellenson for Rabbi Baum, laid his hands upon us to ordain us. If we hadn't been present, we would not have been ordained. So the laying of hands is a tradition that was and is carried on. So Joshua's doing this. We're going to skip. V'lo kam navi od beYisrael kamosher asher yadoa Adonai panim al panim. And there has not arisen in Israel a prophet like Moses that knew God face to face. I want to break it into two parts. Face to face, we're going to do first, the second half, because that's less important from my perspective. He saw God face to face. Exodus 32, right? Comes down, he looks different. He has in Hebrew, Karen, rays of light emanating from him. But if you go to Rome and you see Michelangelo's statue, what do you see? You see horns, because the Hebrew word for horn, Karen, can also be translated as horn. And it got transferred into the Latin that way. That's why some people think Jews have horns. There was a mistranslation. Now, what's also important is, why did Moses need to come down the mountain and look different? Because if you were writing this book too, you wouldn't want anybody else to say they saw God. So if your face didn't look different and you said, God spoke to me, you'd say, you look just the same as you did yesterday. It was a way to protect the writers of the Torah, to control authority. And that's why they also said, and there have not arisen a prophet like Moses ever again. Why? The Torah, we tend to think of it as a series of stories. It's a series of conflicts between different authority groups. There were patriarchs, there were prophets who were running around. You don't see them in here, you see them more as Moses. There was the priestly class coming into existence, Aaron. Everyone's fighting for control. And what were they trying to do when they wrote this? They weren't trying to write a history. They were trying to establish an authority structure. And the theory was they were going to do it, and then they were going to say, it's done. Why is it done? Because Moses said it was done. And can anyone else ever come along and make it better? Nope, because there's never been another prophet like Moses. That verse was inserted here to seal and arrest the development of Judaism. It was designed by the redactors, the last set of folks who had their hands on this book, to say, no more changes. This is the Judaism that is going to exist now and always. Fortunately, they failed. Not most people take that verse very seriously anymore. Orthodox Judaism has to then say that Moses got a lot more on Mount Sinai. That was their way around this verse. They couldn't say that somebody else came along. They just gave Moses more information. Now, the last... I'm just going to skip down because I'm running out of time. And it says, Moshe le'anei kol Yisrael. And all this Moses did before whom? Who did he do everything in front of? Israel. Yisrael. The Torah ends with Yisrael, and I wanted to pick that up because last week we talked about Jacob changing his name. But what word isn't in the end of this Torah? Jew. We gather here as the Jewish people today to celebrate the Jewish New Year. I defy you to find the word Jew or Judaism in this Torah. It doesn't exist. I guarantee it. I wrote my rabbinic thesis on it. I can tell you every time the word Jew is used and where it is used in 10 selected texts of antiquity. That was my thesis. If you have insomnia, I will give it to you. The important part of it is when the Torah was being written, we weren't Jews yet. We were Israelites. We were Hebrews. The word Jew is a derivative of the term Judean, which comes from the tribe of Judah, and then later on comes from the nation of Judah. I raise this because it was an evolutionary process for us to acquire our name, and it's gone and changed throughout history. The word Jew has been popular at times after this was written, about the time between the writing of this and the Talmud, but then it dropped out of popularity. And in fact, we have an institution in our city that is reflective of that. It's Hebrew Union College. Later on, when a new seminary was started in New York, it was called the Jewish Institute of Religion. They reflected time periods. What this says to me when we read the Torah and we look at it very openly and unabashedly, we see the evolution of our people. Too many people read the Torah and say, we are static, we don't change. What I see when we read it is, even when rabbis who thought, or these weren't rabbis yet, they were the leaders, thought that they knew what was best, that they were going to seal it and say, don't change anymore, the people went on about their business. And we continue to evolve and change and grow. And that's what we're continuing to this very day.